Good morning.
Good morning.
Yay, vibrant good morning. Happy New Year to those who I have not said Happy New Year to. At this time, please begin the live stream of this meeting. I am Dr. Raquel Ingram, and I am the presiding officer for today's board meeting of the North Carolina Board of Nursing. The board meeting of the North Carolina Board of Nursing will now convene. We have a quorum for the meeting. This is an official meeting of the Board of Nursing being conducted in accordance with North Carolina's open meetings law under Article 33C, Chapter 143 of the North Carolina General Statutes. The board recognizes the public's right to attend and observe this meeting. As such, this meeting is being streamed on the board's YouTube channel as well as being recorded. I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off all electronics or place them on mute for this meeting. In the event of an emergency, when an alarm is sounded or instructions for evacuation are given, everyone shall immediately exit the building at the nearest exits. Once you're outside the building, a staff member will provide appropriate instructions. The board's mission, vision, and values drive our work as a board and serve as a reminder to us as we carry out our business. The mission of the board is to protect the public by regulating the practice of nursing. Our vision is exemplary nursing for all, exemplary nursing care for all. In pursuit of our mission and vision, we focus on three core values. The first is equity. We are committed to fairness and justice, integrity. We act in good faith in protecting the public, and agility. We are responsive to emerging healthcare trends. Now moving to our agenda M2, ethics awareness and conflict of interest. In accordance with the State Ethics Act and the Code of Conduct for members of the North Carolina Board of Nursing, it is the duty of every member of the North Carolina Board of Nursing to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from any undue participation in the particular matter involved.
Madam Chair, this is LaDonna Thomas. This is to inform the board that I have a conflict or appearance of conflict related to the following agenda item, and that agenda item is M13.
Thank you. Dr. LaDonna Thomas has submitted a recusal for agenda item M13, education and practice, education program activity, excuse me. I would now move to agenda item M3, the announcements. Again, welcome all board members. Also, board staff, it's always great to see you. Thank you for all you do. And I would also like to welcome our guest, UNCG PhD students. Yes, alma mater from one to another. And also our guests who are observing today, whether you're in the office or on our YouTube channel, we welcome you as well. Are there any other announcements at this time? Seeing none, I will now move to agenda item M4. Are there any additions, modifications, or reordering requested at this time? And I believe I can self-answer that question. We are moving, let's see, the Chief Executive Officer, item M10, to the agenda later. And then we are moving the executive session to the agenda earlier. And if there aren't any other announcements, modifications, or reordering at this time, I will move to item M4, which is the adoption of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion regarding adoption of the consent agenda?
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Madam Chair, I believe we have a motion to amend the consent agenda from Dr. Thomas. If we could address that first, please.
Okay.
I would make to move to amend for the September 25th, 2025 meeting. I was present but did not participate in the voting on that day.
Thank you. Apologies, I'm moving along. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And so Dr. Thomas has made a motion for an amendment to our minutes. Is there a second, or do we need a second?
We do need a second. If I could also add, other board members were also present that day, but were unable to vote and participate in the proceedings fully. That would include members Andrea Jepson and Diane Layden. So I believe if there would be a motion to include them in that amendment, that would be appropriate as well, and we would need a second.
Okay, so we amend to also include Andrea Jepson and Diane Layden.
And is there a motion to accept that?
All right, so the motion has been made by Tom Minowitz. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion.
Is she able to second? Yeah, okay, so it's been seconded by Diane Layton. All in favor by show of hands? And the vote is unanimous. Thank you. Now, we will move to adoption of the consent agenda. Thank you so much, Ms. Paris. Do I have a motion regarding adoption of the consent agenda? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Minowitz. Tom has moved to adopt the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Thank you. Andrea Jepson has seconded. I will now call for the vote. All in favor by show of hands. And that vote is unanimous, I believe. Yes. All righty. Now we will move to adoption of the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the meeting agenda with the modifications? Yes, Ms. Paris.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify that the entire section would be the Chief Executive Officer report to be moved to the end and bringing forward the executive session for scheduling purposes.
All righty.
So the modification would be entire section 5.
Okay, so with that modification, that is, I mentioned just item M10, and it should be, as Ms. Paris stated, the entire section 5, which is M10 and M11. So the amendment is to move that to later and bring section 9, executive session, move that to the agenda earlier. All right, so now that we have that clarified, do I have a motion for the adoption of the meeting agenda with the modifications that I just mentioned?
Madam
Thank you.
Chair, I make a motion to accept the motion.
Thank you. Andrea Jepson has moved to accept the meeting agenda modifications. Do I have a second?
Chair, I second.
Okay, Diane Lading has seconded. I will now call for the vote. All in favor by show of hands, and the vote is unanimous. Thank you. We are now moving to the open comment period of our meeting. The purpose of the open comment period is to provide members of the public an opportunity to share their concerns, offer views, and present questions regarding issues that impact nursing and nursing regulation. At this time, do we have any open comments? Thank you, Ms. Chandra. So at this time, we have no request to speak during the open comment period. Therefore, we will move to the next agenda item. Excuse me. The next agenda item is the Governance and Finance Committee. I will recognize Tom Minowitz, who is the committee chair. Committee members include yours truly, Dr. Raquel Ingram, Arlene Imes, Dr. Amy Steele, and Dr. LaDonna Thomas. And I will now ask Tom Minowitz to present agenda items M7 and continue afterwards with agenda items M8 and M9. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, everybody. I think we're going to refer, if everybody can refer to item M7, recognize Ms. Hema Palmer, staff accountant, to come forward with Sarah Stanley, the CPA manager at Bernard Robinson and Company, to present the audit report.
So I will start with page 52 in your packet, and that is the governance letter. And that's just a letter to the board that goes through our responsibility. And so the planning and scope of the audit, as long as any significant estimates and anything that we may have omitted to communicate. And everything was clean on the audit. There was nothing significant to communicate to the board. We did adopt a new accounting standard, GASB 75, during the year, and there's details about that in the audit report itself that I'll go over. And then you did also pass on adopting GASB 101. So there is, it's called a past adjustment, and that is on page 50, let's see, 56 of your packet. And so we're just required to disclose if management passes on making an entry that we might just note during the audit. It's not significant or material. It's just something we're required to note if that happens. And so I'm going to go ahead and go into the audit, and I'm going to start on page 59. And so that's the beginning of the management discussion and analysis, and it has a good overview of a picture of your year. So on page 59, under the financial highlights, it does note that your total assets increased 1.7 million from 2024, and that your net position increased 1.6 million from 2024 as well. And part of that is your operating revenues increased over last year, and you also had a good investment performance during the year as well. And your expenses stayed pretty comparable, just going up $145,000 year over year. So you had a very good year financially. And then on page 61, that kind of goes into a little bit more detail about what helped with your increase. You did have a rise in your license renewal revenue during the year, which is 66% of your total revenue. And you had an increase in your pre-licensure nursing programs compared to 2024 as well. Okay, so page 62, it does have our audit opinion at the very top, and that was an unmodified opinion, which is the best that we can give. It was a clean audit. There's nothing that we noted or came to our attention to cause concern. There is a new paragraph this year, it's the emphasis of matter paragraph. And when we adopted GASB 75, it's a retrospective adoption. So since you have comparative financials, we had to go back to 2024 and restate to also show the impacts of GASB 75 in 2024. So that's all that is referencing. There's a note, note 1 in the financials has an entire paragraph going over the exact numbers that changed on 2024 compared to what was issued for 2024. So that's just required to go in there when we have to make changes like that. The rest of the opinion goes through our responsibilities and management's responsibilities for the audit. And then on page 65 of your packet, that's a statement of net position. And so most things were fairly comparable year over year. Your investments did increase about $2 million year over year. And then you did have a new lease agreement. So that's why like your right to use of leased assets and your capital assets and your lease liabilities went from 0 in 24 to an increase in 25 because you renewed your lease agreement and we recalculated the value of those numbers. And then the only other new thing is under non-current liabilities, you will see an other post-employment benefit liability, and that is from the adoption of GASB 75. So GASB 75 is taking into account the plan that you have for employees to provide health care up to a certain point after they retire from the board. And so it actually recalculates the value of that liability, and we go through and make sure it's in line with GASB 75. And then on page 66, that's your statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. You can see your total revenue went from 11.9 to 12.3 for your operating revenue, and that your net investment income went from 1.3 to almost 1.8. Then that restatement at the bottom, that's just the impact of GASB 75. If it had been adopted in 24, it just would have reduced your net position by the 348. So that's just showing that impact there. And on the next page, on page 67, I did want to point out that your net cash provided by operating activities is positive. So that means your general operating activities are generating cash for the board. That's always good when that number is positive. And then the next page, on page 68, I did want to point out with the adoption of GASB 75, there is a new note that I'll quickly go through, but your notes for the most part didn't change. But we do have the paragraph on page 68, that's the restatement related to the adoption of GASB 75. And it does go through that, as a result of the adoption, the liabilities as of 6/30/24 would have increased by the 351. There would have been $3,000 of expenses in 2024. So there was the restatement to beginning net assets of 348,000. And then, let's see. Now on page 71, note 2, just go through all the deposits and investments that you have. It goes through that you have a total of 25 million in deposits at 6/30/25. And that it goes through like maybe the fourth or fifth paragraph that, you have that the Securities Investor Protection Corporations backs 500,000 of that, and the FDIC backs 250,000 of what you have at the bank. And it goes through any credit risk you may have. And then page 74 on note 6, that does go through any net assets that the board has designated and the purpose that they are designated for, and what their balance was at 6/30/25. Any additions that the board made to the category or any expenditures that the funds were used for during the year to reduce that amount. So that does go through what you decide to use those funds for, and the balance is there. On page 76 is note 10, and that's the new note this year with the adoption of GASB 75. And it goes through that the assumptions that the actuary used, like the payroll growth assumption, the discount rate used, and then it kind of looks at, they determined that at 6/30/24, the liability would have been 351,000. So then it looks at the changes in their assumptions from 24 to 25 and how that impacts the balance of the liability at the end of the year. And then on page 77, it goes through kind of like the impacts of the discount rate, how the liability would be impacted if this discount rate was 1% higher or lower, and different trends, just so you can kind of see how sensitive the estimate could be to different factors and changes. And they do have deferred inflows of resources, which is really just, it looks at the changes of their assumptions and it kind of discounts it over time. And so that number can change every year based on how much their assumptions might change as they look at this every year. And then that for the notes is the only new thing compared to last year. And then on page 80, there is a required supplemental schedule along with the adoption of the other post-employment benefits standard. Is very similar to what's in the notes, but it is just required to present that separately on its own schedule. And then on the next page, on page 81, is your actual to budget for the year. And you can see that your actual revenues were higher than what you budgeted and your actual expenses were lower than what you budgeted. So overall, it's a very good year. That's really all I wanted to go over, just kind of a big picture highlight. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Great job. I'm glad I didn't have to dig through all that to figure that stuff out. I think everybody feels the same way. I think it's important to note that I've been involved with the now governance and finance. Prior to that, it was just the finance committee. And for 6 straight years now, it's been an exemplary audit. Everything's been great, and that comes down to both Hema and Gail doing a fabulous job. So thank you for all that. Anybody have any other questions for them about the audit? Okay.
Okay, thank y'all.
The board, I'd like to make a recommendation that the board accept the auditor's report as presented. Shouldn't need one.
Because it comes from a committee, there's no second required.
Right, so I'm sorry, that you were doing that whole part, so I will, thank you for the, let's see, we don't need a committee, so we just need, a call for a vote. So all in favor by show of hands? All right, it is unanimous.
Okay.
Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So now we're going to move on to the entertainment portion of today's program and introduce Wells Fargo advisors. No pressure. They're going to present the market analysis and investment performance report.
Yeah, I'll start with the data first, and then we will turn it over to Wes for the market update. Good morning, y'all.
Good
So
morning.
you're gonna sing and I'm gonna dance? or-
Exactly, yes,
Or do
exactly.
I dance and you sing?
Both, a
Or
little bit
sing?
of both.
Yeah, whatever.
We're gonna do a little bit of both. It's good to be here with you. I'm just gonna go ahead and review the performance and the compilation of the existing portfolio, and then Wes will do a market update for you. I'm not making words real well. So your existing portfolio of investments right now is 35% in stocks, in equities, and 65% in bonds or fixed income. The fixed income portion is made up of FDIC insured CDs, a money market fund, and some bond mutual funds. And your stock portion is with 3 different professional money managers. It's worth noting, and we noted this in the Finance Committee, that we are currently at the maximum allowable stock allocation. Just noting it for the record doesn't mean we need to do anything. If something needs to happen, we talk with Gail about that often, and so we'll share it with you. But it's worth noting that we're at the maximum allowable, so you know that we're monitoring it. As far as performance, the first numbers I'm going to quote are the numbers that are in your packet. That's as of the end of November, which is again what we share with the Finance Committee, so I'll share those first. The stock account through the end of November was up 12.83%. The bond account through the end of November was up 6.06%, making the total portfolio up about 8.34% through the end of November. Now, to compare that, some major market indexes that you usually hear about, the S&P was up 17.8 during that period, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 13.9. The more accurate comparison of your stocks, though, comes from what we call a blended index that actually represents how y'all are invested. That blended index was up 17.2% through the end of November from that same period. And the U.S. aggregate bond index was up about 7.5. So your bond investments were real close. The stock portion did slightly underperform the blended index, but there are times when that's going to happen. And Wes is going to talk in the market update a little bit about sort of why that happened. And for those of y'all who are wondering, what have you done for me lately? You're wondering how it's doing as of this year. I do have those numbers. This is only a few weeks into the year, so they're not exciting. Through January 20th, your stock account's up 1.91. Your bond account is down 0.02, just ever so slightly, which makes your total portfolio up 0.66% through January 20th. So just looked at those numbers as of a couple days ago. During that same time, again, the S&P was down 0.71, the Dow was up 0.88, and the U.S. aggregate bond index was down 0.39. So, and also your blended index, your blended stock index was up 3.02 during that same time period. So again, not big numbers, but I thought y'all might be wondering because the end of November was a couple months ago. Any questions about performance numbers before I turn it over to Wes for the biggest part of our show today?
I feel like this is gonna be a letdown for you, Tom, but I'm gonna try to do my best. But, I would just say that this year has gotten off to a really, kind of a crazy start with all the world events that we've seen in the news, whether it's Venezuela, Iran, Greenland, all these weird headlines that makes all of us kind of feel a little uneasy about investing in the markets and all that. Despite all that, Wells Fargo has a very constructive outlook for, and so kind of our outlook title this year at Wells Fargo is trend lines over headlines, and this year that's what we would focus on. Really, we think the outlook is favorable this year despite all that news and noise. And what we mean by that is we're entering a year where we've just come off of 3 interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. And as everyone knows, anytime the Federal Reserve cuts rates, it's stimulative to the economy. More people borrow. I think of it like oxygen in the economy for growth. And we are expecting 2 to 3 more interest rate cuts. The Federal Reserve is more focused on employment than they are inflation right now, whereas most of last year they were more focused on inflation. So they want to keep people employed. They're cutting interest rates. That typically is good for the stock market. It's good for the bond market. It's good for long-term assets in general. And we think that that provides a tailwind for investing this year. So when you take the rate cut cycle and combine it with deregulation, extension of tax cuts from the big beautiful bill last summer, we really have a favorable outlook for the markets this year. Whether we agree with the tax cuts and all that we can debate about that. From a market standpoint, markets like it because this spring there's going to be a lot of tax refunds that come to citizens and find their way into the economy, whether it's spending or investing. And you might say, well, how is that? Well, one of the biggest things that we see, I know no one in this room is 65 or older, but every couple or citizen that's 65 or older now has a new deduction of, I think it's $6,000 per person. I would have Bernard Robinson or she left. Okay. I think it's about 6,000 per person, age 65 for a couple. That's a $12,000 deduction. And so there's going to be a lot of retirees that have this money in their pocket coming this spring. We think, could be a trip. It could be travel, eating out, whatever, but it will find its way in the economy. So we think there are the ingredients for growth this year, even with some of the craziness that we're seeing. So Wells Fargo likes, we favor stocks in this environment, large companies, medium-sized companies. We like the U.S. over international. And but it also should be a good period for the bond market. And that's one reason why we saw our bond investments, even though we're mostly invested in short to intermediate duration CDs for the safety that they provide. The account returned 6% last year, and that's because when rates fall, CD or bond prices go up. And so the wind is in our sail. And we feel good about this year. The only thing I worry about is the thing that we can't predict. And, obviously, that could happen. Any surprise could happen, whether it's a geopolitical or whatever. So it's a thing that we can't see, but the right ingredients are in place. And just a comment, because Amy mentioned it, you'll notice anytime I have a year in the stock market where we earn double digits and it's 12%, I'm thrilled with that. But as Amy mentioned, it was not exactly where the blended index was last year. And we would attribute it to, there was some weird stuff that happened in the market last year. We are mostly invested in conservative dividend paying stocks that are defensive. We do have some small to mid cap stocks. We have some international stocks. The international part did beautifully. We were up over 20% last year on international, which is really good. But something really funky happened with small to medium company stocks last year. Companies, this is not going to make sense. So companies that have no earnings in small to mid cap stocks last year did really well. Had no earnings, they did well. Stocks that had earnings did not do well. We call that a junk rally. Like, if you're an investor, you want to see earnings in those companies. But because the Fed was cutting rates, Some of these businesses that are not healthy had a little bump. You know, they're borrowing a lot of money. There's hopes that they would be able to refinance and save money and hopefully become profitable. Well, our investments are focused on the profitable stocks in the small to mid cap area, what we call high quality. Most of the time, you know, over a 3 to 5 year period, you want to be in those. It just happens to be last year we had this junk rally where unprofitable companies outperformed those that are profitable. I know that sounds weird, but there's crazy things that can happen in the market, and that was one of them for last year. You know, we're to talk about some other crazy things, but we'll leave it at that for now. And I would just pause and see if there's any questions about our outlook, and or anything Amy said about the performance.
Any questions? So a couple of things I wanted to point out. Number one, as long as our investment portfolio outpaces inflation, that's a good thing. So, you know, if we're at 8.3%, but inflation is at 3 or 4, 2.5%, we're still making ground constantly. So that's always also to point out, so everybody understands this. 35% of our investment portfolio is currently in stocks, and it's capped. And the reason, a couple years ago, we were at 33% or 34%, and we've gotten, as those have performed well, it increases the percentage. So what ultimately could happen is if it continues to increase, we will have to essentially move some money from the stocks over to bonds because our policies are set to only have 35% is the max we can have in there. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. Any other questions or comments for them? Nope. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. Hope everybody has a happy new year.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go over some of the first quarter financial statements, and if there are any questions, Ms. Gail Bellamy is up here to answer them for you. But we'll go over the statement of net position first. The statement of net position summarizes our financial position. Assets totaled $31,791,634. Our liabilities totaled $11,153,030 for a net position that totaled $20,638,604. So we're very healthy there. The statement of revenue, how the financial position changed during the first quarter. Our revenue, which is the operating revenue, totaled $3,099,334, and that's an increase of $37,713 or 1.1%. Our non-operating revenue from investments totaled $629,109 compared to $1,139,619 for the same period last year. On the expenditure side, our expenditures totaled $3,396,986 and were $24,828 or 0.7% more than projected in the budget. Comparing that to the same period last year, expenditures were up $343,047 or 11.2%. Net position at the beginning of the fiscal year was $20,307,148. The change in net position was still $331,457, which the resultant net position was $20,638,604. So we are very healthy financially, is a great way to summarize that. Any questions, comments? That's all from the Governance and Finance Committee, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Tom Minowitz, Chair of the Governance and Finance Committee. Now, based on the modification of our meeting agenda, the next item on our agenda is Section 9, which is executive session. Executive session is a closed session, and so so here I go again, okay? All of these modifications and additions.
I'm
Thank you.
so sorry. With the modification, we will go into education section 6 and be moving 9 up forward as we continue through our
Okay.
Okay.
Ah, okay. All right.
Always schedule.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so let me get here. So we're going to item M12. All right, board members, we are moving to education, the education portion of the agenda, item M12, approval of status changes related to annual NCLEX results. And I would now like to recognize Dr. Jennifer Lewis. Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. Nursing graduate performance on the National Council Licensure Examination, or NCLEX, for RNs and PNs is just one measure we use as a Board of Nursing to monitor program compliance with established regulations. Specifically, the North of Code, Chapter 360320C states that a program shall maintain an NCLEX examination pass rate that meets or exceeds 90% of the national pass rate for licensure level on first writing of the licensure examination. Now, the national pass rates for the NCLEX PN and RN are provided by the National Council of State Boards of Nursing each year. The North Carolina Board of Nursing then uses that national pass rate to calculate the North Carolina standard in accordance with that rule I just read to you. Looking at your documents in M12, the first page of M12, which is the issue statement, displays both the RN and PN nursing education programs that did not meet that North Carolina standard based on their single year pass rates. The remaining documents detail pass rates for all approved programs, and items that are highlighted in yellow are indicative of those programs that fall below that North Carolina standard. So for calendar year 2025, the single year RN national pass rate is 87%. 90% of that national pass rate is then calculated to be 78%. So 78% is the current standard we're using to evaluate North Carolina RN programs. Likewise, for calendar year 2025, the single year practical nurse national pass rate is also 87%. So 90% of 87 equals 78%. So for our practical nurse programs, the North Carolina standard is also 78. So just to be clear, each RN program is evaluated using their respective single year pass rate against the North Carolina standard of 78%. The same goes for PN programs this year. Now, in situations where a program is unable to show evidence that they're meeting that minimum standard, the board has the authority to place the program on warning status until such time is they provide evidence that they have been able to come back into compliance with that rule language. As I stated previously, NCLEX pass rates are evaluated on the calendar year. So the 9 programs before you will have until December 31st to show evidence that they are now complying with the NCLEX standard. The board staff recommends that the board approve the NCLEX RN and NCLEX PN pass rates for 2025 as presented, and that you approve warning status for Johnson & Wales University BSN program, Northeastern University BSN program, the University of Mount Olive BSN program, Winston-Salem State University BSN program, Cabarrus College of Health Sciences Associate Degree in Nursing program, Halifax Community College Associate Degree in Nursing program, Isothermal Community College Associate Degree in Nursing program, Region A Nursing Consortium Associate Degree in Nursing program, and Southeastern College Associate Degree Nursing program. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis, and thank you for the detailed explanation. Any questions or discussion for Dr. Lewis? Yes.
I think you meant to say.
I did. Thank you so much. Southeastern College PN program. My apologies.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Dr. Lewis, what would be the next step? So you said the year, they have a year to prove adherence.
Correct.
And so if for some reason they don't submit or prove adherence, what would be that next step?
So let me just say, during this year, those programs are going to be asked to engage in a self-reflective exercise so that they can self-assess why their NCLEX pass rates did not meet the standard. And they'll need to share those findings with the Board of Nursing. They'll also be asked to submit their comprehensive program evaluation plan, where they are asked to use data to inform their decision-making over time. They also will be undergoing a formal focus review by the education staff so that they'll have conversations with our education consultants about their performance and their plans to improve their performance from this aspect. Those things will happen over this next year. If, however, come December 31st, and once we get the NCLEX scores, which will happen next January, we find that programs are still not meeting that standard, they will then be reevaluated and presented again to the Board of Nursing, just as they are today, for issuance of warning status. Goal is really to support programs and continued compliance with regulations. So we're going to do as much as we can to ensure that they have all the support that they need to bring them back into compliance. Next year, this time, we will evaluate their performance and, if need be back in front of the board to advise you of those pass rates.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Questions, discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis, do you know of these 9 programs, are any of them, do they have a history to put themselves in this situation?
Some of them do have a history. Now, I will say that last year was a bit of an anomaly because we had a rule change impacting the NCLEX standard. And so fewer programs were placed on warning status. Some of these programs, however, have they fluctuated in their ability to comply with the NCLEX standard over time. And if that's something that you would like to hear more about, you know, an extended history over time, we can certainly get you that information. Okay.
All right, seeing no other questions, motion to approve staff's recommendation that the board approve program status changes to warning status for the listed programs pursuant to 21 NCAC 36.0303D based on non-compliance with 21 NCAC 36.0320C. All right, it has been moved by Christopher Burr, second by Dr. Brooke Kistler. All in favor by show of hands? And the vote is unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. We're moving to section M13, education and practice activity. And so I would now like to recognize Dr. Anne Marie Milner.
And Madam Chair, as a reminder, I will be recusing in this session.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, for the reminder.
Happy New Year to everybody. I'm here to present Care One. The North Carolina Board of Nursing reviewed Care One's application to establish a practical nurse program in Raleigh. They submitted the application on September 11, 2025 by Dr. Nicole Harris, with final revisions received December 18, 2025, and determined that the application meets the requirements for initial approval under 21 NCAC 36.0302. The proposed program consists of 42 credits delivered over 3 semesters with a maximum of enrollment of 60 students, 30 daytime and 30 evening and weekend. An anticipated program start date is June 2026, and the first graduating class is expected in June 2027. The application demonstrates adequate financial, physical, and learning resources, administrative and governing support, qualified leadership and faculty, and a comprehensive curriculum and policies, along with student support and approved affiliation agreements. Care One holds a certificate to operate from the North Carolina College Community Systems Office and is accredited by the Commission of Council on Occupational Education. A second site visit occurred on December 15th, 2025, and resulted in no recommendation. Madam Chair, staff recommend granting initial approval to Care One program with the proposed enrollment parameters beginning in June 2026.
Thank you, Dr. Milner. Are there any questions for Dr. Milner? All right, I have a few questions, Dr. Milner. First, I would like to say I enjoyed reading the letter to the board from Care One, so I thank you for that, for the acknowledgements of what needed to be done, because it was indicated that this has come before the board a few times, and so good job with that. I did want to ask about the 60 students, so your maximum total enrollment. How will you recruit students for the June 2026 admission or enrollment, since that's like around the corner?
Yes, it is. So recruitment will definitely start after approval from the board. We do have a, good rapport in the community. So we plan on hosting recruitment events to recruit those students. And we also can recruit within our school, what we have. Those are our plans to make sure but we have to wait for approval first. And then we're going to be really busy getting started marketing as far as the recruitment for the students.
Okay, thank you. And my next question, in correlation with student recruitment, there's faculty. And so do you have a plan in place in terms of your recruitment for faculty to teach in your program?
We currently have about 8 to 10 faculty that are qualified to teach in the program already. And based upon schedules and availability, we will ensure that we already have that faculty, and ongoing recruitment will be done as well.
My next question, you have an on-campus computer library. My question is, are students able to access information off campus?
Yes, they will be. Yes, we will be looking into that resource as well.
Okay, all right, so they don't have to physically be there to access your resources?
That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
all right. So then my next question doesn't matter. All right, any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation that Care One PM program is granted initial approval with a maximum total enrollment of 60 students, 30 students in the daytime option and 30 students in the evening weekend option, starting in June 2026?
Madam Chair, Dr. Kessler also move.
All right, thank you. The recommendation has been moved by Dr. Kistler. Is there a second? Okay, it has been seconded by Daisha Thompson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor by show of hands with the recusal of Dr. LaDonna Thomas. The vote is unanimous. Thank you. Congratulations, Caroline.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dr.
Can I have
Miller.
final remarks, please? We would just like to thank you for believing in Care One. I know we've come before the board more than once, but thank you for giving us the opportunity to prove that, we're gonna stay in compliance and, be able to educate future LPNs. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Congratulations. Going to education and practice. Okay, our next item on the agenda is education and practice. And so for that, I would like to recognize myself as committee chair and committee members Andrea Jepson, Dr. Amy Steele, Dr. Brooke Kitzler, Dr. Carmen Shaw, and Sandra Lewis. And our staff liaison is Stacy Thompson. I would now, there she is already, Dr. Sarah Griffith. I will now recognize Dr. Griffiths for this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I am not Stacy Thompson, but I am Dr. Sarah Griffith. Good morning, board members and guests. I will provide an update on activities of the November 2025 Education and Practice Committee meeting. On behalf of Stacy Thompson, practice consultant, who could not be here today. I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Jenna Caparel, who assisted in presenting during this meeting, who is here today. At the committee meeting held on November 12th, 2025, Ms. Thompson and Dr. Caparel presented a review of the previous meeting, the medication aid instructor survey results, a review of the current curriculum, and a summary of written comments from stakeholders. To evaluate the impact of the current curriculum on workforce entry, 3 guest speakers shared their experience working with medication aids in nursing homes. They outlined essential competencies for this role and described the challenges they face upon hiring medication aids. The areas that need focus on were additional clarification on the role of the medication aid in nursing homes. Updates to the curriculum are needed to support the adequate training of applicants, and rule revisions are needed to enforce specific requirements for faculty and training. The committee provided board staff with directions as outlined in your report to address these specific areas. Madam Chair, the Education and Practice Committee recommends extending its current charge through 2026 to complete the recommendations in Agenda Item M14.
Thank you, Dr. Griffith. Any questions, any discussion about this recommendation? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation that the board extend the current charge of the Education and Practice Committee through 2026 to complete recommendations as directed by the committee during the November 12th, 2025 meeting? All right, Dr. Shaw. All right, Dr. Shaw has moved to approve staff's recommendation. Do I have a second? Okay, seconded by Arlene Imes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will now call for the vote. All in favor by show of hands, and the vote is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Griffith. We still got time. Okay. So are we going to go? Okay, the next item on our agenda is M15, is where we're moving to periodic review and expiration of rules report. I will now recognize Meredith Paris. Thank you.
Ingram, I get excited talking about rules, but I'll try to tame that excitement for you all. I want to acknowledge both Angela Ellis and Christy Joyce, who have been helping with this huge undertaking. Just to give you a little bit of history, again, this starts on page 109, Agenda M15 in your book. You'll see a spreadsheet there through page 111 with all of the rules in our administrative code chapter. All state agencies are required by law to complete a periodic review of existing rules every 10 years. We did go through a, excuse me, periodic review in 2018 and readopted those rules in 2019. So you're asking yourselves, why are we doing this again so early? And it's not because we love to, it's because we're required to by the legislature. So the General Assembly revised these requirements and state agencies were required to undergo a complete periodic review again to make sure that we are looking at these rules in greater detail and meet new requirements. So the first step that you'll see in our packet is in periodic reviews to classify all rules in Chapter 36 for the Nursing Practice Act as either necessary or unnecessary. Board staff conducted a thorough review of all of these rules by department and then also conducted by review with legal and Angela Ellis and classified all of the NCBON rules as necessary. This report is coming to you for final approval before staff proceeds with the next step in the periodic review process, which would be a public comment period and then moving before an appearance before the Rules Review Commission. You'll note on page 111 that staff is recommending that the board approve the periodic review and expiration of rules report and direct staff to proceed with the rulemaking process.
Thank you, Meredith. Any discussion? Any questions? I would just say that's necessary.
We work hard.
Yeah, yes, you do. You do. So not seeing any questions or any further discussion, do I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation that the board approve the periodic review and expiration of rules report and direct staff to proceed with the rulemaking process? Okay, thank you. It has been moved by Tom Minowitz, seconded by Kelly Dahl. I will now call for a vote. All in favor by show of hands, and the vote is unanimous. Thank you. And now, do we take a break? All righty. We will take a break and we will reconvene at about 10 after. Thank you. We will now reconvene and to executive closed session. I need a motion and a second to go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with the board's attorney and preserving the attorney-client privilege consistent with General Statute 143-318.11. This concerns the pending civil litigation filed by Kimball Sargent against the board. Okay, Tom Minowitz has moved to go into closed session. Is there a second? It has been seconded by Karen York. All in favor by show of hands. We are now into closed session. So since the motion to closed session, I would ask that all members of the public and staff excuse themselves. They're already gone from the boardroom until the board goes back into session. At this time, IT will cease the streaming, and we are in closed session and no additional business will be conducted. Thank you.
Unless we can verify that the YouTube stream. Thank you.
Our board meeting is following our closed session. I need a motion to the matter involving Kimball Sargent. Is there a motion to recalendar the matter? Okay, the motion was made by Christopher Burr and seconded by Andrea Jepson. Any discussion, questions? Now call for the vote. All in favor by show of hands. It is unanimous. Thank you. At this time, I will now recognize Dr. Crystal Tillman, our CEO, to present her Chief Executive Officer activities.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Happy New Year to everyone. Our first board meeting of the year. Exciting. And wanted to say that today I'm going to do the CEO update a little bit differently. I'm divided it into 3 sections. And so the first one I'll do is general updates, then the regulatory report, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the plan. But as you can see here, this is the board members back in 25 for the holidays, and then board staff, we all got together here at the board. So hope everyone is glad to be back in our routine. So we had the board symposium yesterday, and it was wonderful. We had Dr. Stephanie Ferguson, who joined us and talked to us about board governance, to swear in our 3 new board members. And I would like to introduce and welcome Christopher Burr, who is our registered nurse at large position. And let's see, Chris is at Scotland Memorial Hospital, RNA, and that's certified registered nurse anesthetist. No. And then Kelly Dahl is at Rowan Cabarrus College, and she is our practical nurse educator. So we're glad to have that seat filled. So thank you for filling it. And then lastly, Daisha Thomas. She is our licensed practical nurse. Thank you for joining us. And she's at the VA in Fayetteville. I have 3 representatives from the VA, which is fantastic to get that federal viewpoint as well. Okay. And right now we are in the midst of the Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist Week until the 24th. So congratulations. And are you going to do anything special this week for your CRNA week? Oh, good, good. Never pass up free food. Exactly. So happy 24th, nurses. Once again, we are ranked the most ethical and most trusted profession. And I think that's wonderful to have that for 24th year in a row. Record low rate school teachers, clergy, business executives, police officers, enterprise, stock brokers, and telemarketers. So I can see telemarketers on the list, but yeah. They're getting ready for the 2026 Education Summit. This will be on NC State's campus at the McKimmon Center. We're so delighted that it's going to actually be in person this time. And have discussions. So looking forward to that as well. And Miss Arlene Ives, she was able to give the presentation for the pinning ceremony at Alamance Community College. Congratulations. And Miss gave them lots of words of wisdom to go through their career. So we always choose a charity each year. And so this year we chose Central and Eastern North Carolina. And so very proud, we all had, let's see, over 230 pounds of food. And as you can see Emma Palmer right there, she loaded her car down with all the, and then we collected $900 from staff as well. So that was a fantastic event. You didn't know it's going to put your picture up, did you, Emma? And I always like to say, protect the public by regulating the practice of nursing. And why is this important? We touched a little bit, but the board has issued 3 emergency suspensions over the last couple months: Wake County, Durham County, and Watauga County. And this is very important because it shows that the board is meeting their mission of protecting the public. And certainly you intervene, safety is at hand. So thank you all for doing that. Hurricane Helene emergency waivers. Dr. Ingram had asked some update on statistics, so I wanted to put them in. Number of nurse practitioners that are on waivers in the West Carolina, 66 that came from being expired or active. And the number of NPs with the current in North Carolina approvals to work in the western part was 24. So you're talking about 90 are working in the western part of North Carolina, which is fantastic. But the nice thing is, look at the disciplinary action, 0. You know, it shows you that nurse practitioners are doing an effective job of working with people, and especially more about rural health, how important it is to have nurse practitioners focused in the rural health area. Please, Ms. Layden.
Yeah, may I just say that, you know, but they don't have the physician oversight. So, you know, that's something that's good to come up.
Exactly.
Later.
They don't have that collaborative practice
Yeah.
agreement. Exactly. Yes.
Even the 24.
Now the 24, they would be engaged in a current collaborative practice unless they wanted to come out of it, which they shouldn't. They should still be under the, no, they went under the waiver, so they no longer have, because they're supervising physician, that's right. Say you were working in Mecklenburg County. You couldn't use that same supervising physician, so therefore you were able to go on a waiver. Any of the affected counties. But I think it's great that we had 90 and 0 discipline.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Layden, for bringing that up, that they have no supervising physician. And to our legislative piece, House Bill 399, Senate Bill 286 is our North Carolina Board of Nursing licensure fee ceiling bill that is still active during the 26 short session. Right now, it's in a fiscal analysis. Like I said, it's going to remain active. Do we anticipate that it's going to move, or probably not in the short have to get together session to reintroduce bills long session, not the short session. We'll get to learn all about the. So we touched, had a lot of nurses in uproar about the department having the RISE program, the Reimagining and Improving Student Education. They wanted to omit post-baccalaureate degrees from the professional degree in this new framework. So what that means, it would not include, if you were wanting to go back and borrow, it would not include an MSN, a D, or a PhD, which is a problem because our APRNs are all under the MSN. Your educators are all under a PhD, DNP. So that's going to essentially and affect the workforce of nursing. How many nurses we can certainly move forward with in the future. So at NCBON, Ashley Shelton, who's Director of Federal and Government Affairs, she got together with all the executive officers. We had a called partisan letter that we could say we support, having a professional list. So there's not a cap in the amount of loans that they can receive. So this is a letter on the right side, but very proud to say that 140 members of Congress signed on. So the next step, it will proposed rulemaking, and then it goes to open public comment. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens if we can get nurses added back on that professional list of professions. So we have 5 million RNs in the US. That's a lot of votes out there. So certainly hope for nursing, the profession, that we can get that added back to professional degrees. I know Angela, and you talked about it, Meredith talked about it. Periodic review, this is a mandatory 10-year. State agencies have to classify their administrators necessary, which means still needed, or unnecessary, which means they are now redundant or obsolete. And the reason why we have periodic rules remain relative, efficient, and so Meredith, that you've been working on. So I have been asked to join the North Carolina Caregiving Workforce Strategic Leadership Council. And this is where state entities coordinate with each other and effectively utilize Carolina have sufficient, strong, supported, and mental health, substance abuse, and direct care support, especially in the rural areas. So this team is comprised of leadership at DHHS, the leadership North Carolina Community College System, the UNC system, Department of Public Instruction, the Board of Nursing, and Rural Health. Now, one thing you may not know, in North Carolina, we have 100 counties. 85 out of our 100 counties are considered rural. So rural health is a big issue in our state. So this team is to help pull down some of the barriers so we are able to get access to care for the citizens of Carolina. Public safety, right? But you also, if there's area barriers, we need to get those corrected in rules if need be. So this is what the North Carolina Caregiving Workforce Strategic Leadership Council looks like. It's, like I said, divided up in those 3 areas. When we talk about direct care, direct support workforce, we're talking about nurse aides, med aides. It's important to make sure we have enough staff in the future. Then I'm a part of the nursing workforce efforts on that committee, and that committee reports to the larger dream team. And then we have the mental health and substance use workforce efforts as well. And so the 3 are coming together, and we meet in person, certainly to discuss ways that we can break down some of the barriers. Any questions about? It's exciting. It's exciting. Congratulations to Dr. Sarah Griffin for being accepted into the North Carolina Healthcare Foundation Diverse Healthcare Leaders Mentorship Program. She applied to it and got it. Very grateful for that, and I know you'll do an excellent job. Okay. And I have to say congratulations to Chris. She is going to be presenting at the Advanced Leadership Institute, and I put it in quotes because anyone that knows Meredith knows she has a strong reputation for applying leadership concepts to navigate complex regulatory challenges in your role as Chief Legal Officer and Legislative Liaison. This is going to be in April in New Orleans that she will be presenting. The best thing is we have 5 graduates that are graduating this year in the 2026 graduate class of the International Center for Regulatory Scholarship. So we're very pleased with that. As you can see in the hand corner, Mr. Tony Graham, who also sits on the board of directors at NCBON. We have Allison Bailey. We have Dr. Anne Marie Milner. And then on the second row, and Stacy Thompson. So we're delighted that they went through a rigorous program and that they have achieved their milestones and will be graduating. And NCSBN is revamping do the ICRS program now. So we don't know what the future holds, what it's going to look like, how long the program's going to last. But I would certainly encourage, especially the newer board members, please take advantage of it. This is something that you all can do and be a part of, even current board members, you know, if it's a program that you're in, certainly become a graduate as well. Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry I left you out. Oh, my. Dr. LaDonna Thomas, congratulations, congratulations. I apologize about that. But yes, very proud of these 6 people. So, and I know you all will have a wonderful time in New Orleans, won't you? Okay, represent us well, stay safe. So good news, NCNA has now reached the 10,000 member milestone, which is nurse and advocacy, so congratulations to them. With NCNA, we now advertise in their hard copy of the Tar Heel Nurse. So you will see the advertisement, and it advertises in our bulletin, which we're very proud of and do here in-house. And also it has the links that people can go to the bulletin and also previous issues as well. So happy for that. I always want to reach out and thank our social media. Hopefully you're on Facebook or LinkedIn that you can see the post. Communication teams just does a wonderful job, and always like to go through and see what events are on there. And in case you're wondering, Hema, that's where I go. It was posted on our various websites, so web links. Okay, now we're getting into the second part of my presentation, and this is the regulatory reports, what's going on in the different areas. So earlier, Dr. Lewis talked about the NCLEX statistics, which is wonderful. She broke it down, made it very easy to understand. North Carolina has always been above the national rates. So you see right here, the LPN on the right side in the orange, above national rate. RNs dropped a couple percentage points. So we're going to be, I hope this is not a trend because this is the first time we've seen that little dip. So we'll watch it in the future. The RN licensure, you can see here, the majority of it is in renewals, but we also have listed the amount of people taking exams since endorsement and reinstatement. There are the numbers for the licensed practical nurse as well that you can see. Majority again is in renewal. For AP, we like to break it down by the 4 roles, which we do. Numbers. And so all areas are increasing. The one area that is decreasing for certified nurse midwives are the ones who have supervising physicians. The ones who have independence is increasing because as those certified nurse midwives renew, they are choosing to go to the independent practice and no longer having that position. So we're glad to see those numbers. We'll be reporting them out in the future. We can trend it out. So in practice, just like to know, well, what are the top 3 questions that you're getting asked? Delegation of medication administration, LPN super RN, and the general RN scope of practice. So that's what they certainly answer majority of their calls. In legal, we have a list of the settlements, the hearings, and the legal order, and you can see how many cases that have been completed since the last board meeting, and you all have been very busy. And then investigations, I always like to look at our time to closure in the cases. And you can see that the longest cases are open are the criminal charge convictions, just because we have to wait on the courts to do their part before we can move forward with our investigation. Compliance monitoring, this is Allison. As you can see, the numbers that are in our intervention program, the screener, the non-screeners, alternative program. So very proud that we have a lot who are in the programs and willing to get help and get back in nursing. Okay, so this is the third part. Everybody take a deep breath. Okay, we're going to talk about the strategic. So I emailed Catherine early this morning and said, Catherine, please give us a hard copy of our current strategic plan and the proposed strategic so that we have it right in front of you, because nothing is written in stone. And, you know, this is just board staff coming together, spending time saying, okay, what can we possibly propose for the board members to vote on and see which direction they want to go? You may say, oh, no, I liked the vision better and I don't see a need to change it. That's fine. We can change it. And just wanted to have a place that we could start. So when we had the Waller Consulting Group here, you know, they went over the surveys with us and they were kind of wanting us to change our mission. And some of the board members were very vocal and said, no, we like our board mission. It serves us well and we want to stay with it. So we, you know, certainly stayed with to protect the public by regulating the practice of nursing. Oh, sorry, I need to wrap up our current strategic plan before I jump right on in. So very proud of this. With our current strategic plan, we achieved or on track with 96%, which is amazing. We have 3 off track, 1 that wasn't started, and 3 canceled. So 96% was wonderful. So here's our current strategic plan, and it's small, so let's break it down and look at it this way. Vision, leading nursing regulations to advance public safety. It's interesting because Dr. Ferguson was here yesterday. I really like your current vision statement, which is our vision is exemplary nursing care for all. In pursuit of our mission and vision, we focus on these core values. So the vision is exemplary nursing care for all. So I did have a board call last night wanting to clarify some questions. And the proposed vision that we have, you know, we only have authority. The legislature only gives us authority for North Carolina. So it almost sounds like, are we talking about national? Are we talking about, so wanted to just get some conversation about your thoughts about it. You know, if you'd like to revise it in any way, if you'd like to keep our current vision or vision of exemplary nursing, just open it up to you all.
Shocker that I have an opinion. Yeah, I really like what Dr. Ferguson said yesterday, and one of the takeaways was the for all. I would like for us to figure out a way that we can incorporate that, at least the for all or for all North Carolinians, into our current, or
So you would like us to review it, or do you want to stick with the current one that we have?
Well, I think if, I guess revised to what we, to advance public safety for all or for Carolinians,
Okay.
something to that effect.
Okay, so we will do a rework on the vision to incorporate our previous vision statement and blend together, okay?
I would like to add, yes, I do like the for all, but I also like in the proposed vision statement, part, I think that, we as North Carolina want to continue to lead the way and be set apart from others. And people do look at us as the leaders. So I love the leading forward future differentiation for the Board of Nursing here in North Carolina.
Great, thank you.
And so Crystal, out this, when I read it, leading nursing regulation, we do. Nobody else does regulation. We do that. That's our role. And so I questioned this because the vision appears more global, but we are not global regulators. Again, we regulate North Carolina. And to Tom's point, I really like the for all component. And so I would of the for all, I don't mind us leading. Whether, I mean, we're going to do it here because that's what we do, but for others to look at us for that leadership in terms of regulation, like to see the incorporation of exemplary nursing care, all, or the for all.
Great. Thank you. The three value equity, integrity, and agility, because they really have worked for us and we feel like that's still pertinent. But we did change the definition of how we interpret. So for equity, we adhere to the principles of fairness and consistency and regulation. To build in trust and respect by acting ethically. Agility, we champion innovative ideas and adapt to the emerging healthcare needs. So one idea that I heard last night was possibly under the value statement and integrity that we're committed to building trust, that it makes it sound like we're starting at the bottom. We already have that established trust. And let's see, and maybe respect and possibly deleting acting ethically, because we have been acting ethically. So that hasn't been a problem. So just feedback on that. The previous that we had before under that definition, under integrity, was we act in good faith in protecting the public. Yes. So it might be best to go that one instead of trying to wordsmith.
Meaning keep the original, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it would just
Okay.
keep the integrity. We would just put it right in here and get
Yes.
rid of that one.
I like that, Crystal, because again, building, no,
Yes.
we are maintaining.
Right.
Ethically, no, protecting the public, so.
And then for agility, we champion innovative ideas and adapt to emerging needs. I love the word emerging because we don't know 2 years from now what's going to be, technology, how the world is. So we just don't know.
And I would add, I like the word adapt because it indicates that technologies are here and they're not, that we, are committed to supporting that work from a nursing practice and regulation perspective.
And to add to that, I like that too. Find, adapt, and put a check mark by definition. I really like this definition.
Good. Sounds like we have a plan to keep our current mission, the vision, and for the value statements, keep the 3, but use the previous definition we had for integrity. Okay. See how easy that was? Now we're going to get into the 3 initiatives. Enhance public protection through collaborative leadership. Proactively engage in monitoring and shaping healthcare policy and collaborate with stakeholders to ensure safe nursing care. Maintain adequate resources to fund operations. Strengthen ability and foster strategic partnerships. Regulatory policies that foster the health and resilience of nurses to reduce the impact of substance use and mental health issues affecting patient safety. Establish a regulatory review process to evaluate and adapt nursing regulations during emergencies, ensuring flexibility while maintaining and professional standards. So I did get some feedback because, when you look at your past one and you say, oh, I really like section on this one, on that first bullet, where it starts proactively engage, nice to include adequate and able to ensure safe nursing care for all. Because we no longer, as Dr. Ferguson mentioned, we no longer have 4 initiatives. We're down to 3. Like we need to take that from our previous statement and let's pull some of that back in. And for that first bullet that we need to rework it and to include adequate and equitable to all. So how do you feel about
Could I push back slightly? I feel like our value statements essentially say that, and by putting that specifically there, it may not feel it's threaded everywhere, which is what we actually do, in statement. So, it's kind of part of my frame of looking at that.
that's something certainly?
And so with that, I'm going to put Dr. Kistler because I think we need that. I think it may be somewhat unfortunate that we do need that statement for all. We're taking away or eliminating, I should say, the component of our strategic initiatives that to DEI. I understand that DEI is buzz or has these 3 buzzwords or acronyms. And so I think incorporating the for all.
May I ask for clarity? When we look at the top statement, are the bulleted items, are those how we will do the enhanced through collaborative leadership? I'm just asking for clarity. How are the bullets related to the top? Is it intended to be related? Is it how we are going to line?
Exactly. It's how we're going to achieve it. But remember, the board's only voting on the mission, vision, values, and initiatives. Now, board
Okay.
staff will get together and we'll get in the weeds and the targets. Well, how are we going to do specific achieve it? We just want you all to look at the overarching umbrella.
Okay. Just the top words.
Yes.
The 1, 2, and
But you'll be under the initiatives as well. So yes.
My other perspective is if we take out the for all, incorporate, and I don't, this critical, as Dr. Ferguson mentioned, but the word diverse in front of stakeholders. And so with diverse stakeholders to ensure.
So any other comments on that?
When you say diverse, we're talking about pharmacy and theft and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. This is not race specific
Yeah.
or ethnicity. It is,
Yeah.
you know,
She brought that
stakeholders
up.
from every, so to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've read through all of them. That was brought to light and clarified was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth bullet. Advanced nursing regulatory policies that foster the health and resilience of nurses use and mental health issues affecting patients. That we're really getting out of our lane here. That's getting more into nursing advocacy. And kind of want to get a temperature of what the rest of you feel. And you know, the thing of it is when you have a statement, the and in there, you've got to meet both parts. So we might not want to use the and just come out with more of a general statement. So my first ask is, would you like to strike out the resilience of nurses to reduce the impact of substance use and mental health issues affecting patient safety, since that possibly could relate to advocacy?
So
Sort of. So, yes, I agree with what you're saying. I would maybe consider advanced nursing regulatory foster health and patient safety, and cross out everything in between.
Okay. Patient safety for all. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what you said because you
your
said
mic
that-
on, turn your mic on. Turn your mic on.
That foster the health, patient safety. So what is the health related to?
Patient safety, the health of patients.
So, is looking at it that it sounds like advocacy. I mean, we're not doing anything to help the nurse as far as substance abuse. You know, I'm trying to figure out where that might come from, that we do have programs and we do try to help the nurse as much as possible. So I'm just trying to figure out where we're talking about.
I don't view the statement being advocacy necessarily. Like Diane was saying, have the alternative program to try and support nurses for staying in the profession when they're struggling with substance abuse. All it says is that we're going to advance our regulatory policies here within advocacy if we were trying to advance legislative policies or something that we weren't already doing. It's just stating something we currently do.
So how about this statement? Advanced nursing regularly address substance use and mental health issues affecting patient safety. You like that? Okay. We will change that one. Any other thoughts, comments about the first initiative? Okay. Moving on to the second. And as we go, they get shorter. You just finished the hardest one. So, okay. The second initiative, champion advancements in nursing regulation. Ensure fair, efficient, and effective regulatory processes of the just culture model, incorporate data-driven regulatory decisions to enhance quality outcomes and improve efficiencies, share best practices that drive innovation in regulation. And we felt the first bullet, we always want to keep just culture because that's how we practice this board. You know, like Dr. Ferguson was saying yesterday, and having some issues. So we want to be sure that we are practicing a just culture, not only with our licensees, but within collaborate with diverse stakeholders. We can do that. That's bullet point number 3.
So I do have a comment. Yes, we have more in the first, and then in the second, that one that we had just talked about, advancing nurse regulatory practices. Would that not fall in this area of category versus the first one? Is there a differential in the way that the intended for advancing nursing regulatory practices to fall under number 1 instead of number 2?
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, it could fall under there and we could easily switch it over to the second initiative. Okay, so yes, we can do that.
Well, I can speak to why.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry, just to discussion, keeping it under number 1, enhance public protection through collaborative leadership. I believe looking under that section talks about collaborating with mental health providers, substance use providers. And so it's less an advancement and more about public protection. The purpose of 1 is. And so it fits under that. Really, it's protecting the public with these collaborative, diverse stakeholders, less about trying to do regulation, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, but it makes me kind of want to clarify the statement above, because as a layperson kind of reading it, they may see the advancing nursing regulation versus the enhanced safety. So if our emphasis is on safety, then maybe we want to that statement.
These are board staff suggestions. This is for the board members. You are the board. So if you want something changed or revised, please let us know. Looking at it from the public's perspective.
As an educator, I just find that there's lots of student questions when they read our stuff, when we bring them to class, and sometimes our language, what we intend it to mean, doesn't always convey to the student in the same aspect, or even the public in the same aspect. So just looking at the parallels in the language that we use. But I think.
So you would like to keep it where it is now?
Where it is now with the
Okay.
intent and understanding, I would just almost emphasize the safety versus
Safety.
advances regulatory.
Got it. You got that one, Mary.
Dr. Tillman.
Yeah.
Patient safety in advancing nursing regulatory practices. Lead off with patient safety.
Go ahead, Meredith.
So your wordsmith here is just keeping starting those bullet points with a verb, which is why advancing.
So then my comment might be saying enhancing patient safety through advancement of nursing regulatory policies for that, whatever the other 2 words we had. That parallel lines, the enhanced public protection, enhanced patient safety. Still have the intended meaning that you guys had wordsmith for us.
Okay. Okay. Hearing nothing else, let's go to our third initiative. Promote best practices for the use of technology in nursing regulation. Implement regular policies to support safe nursing care using emerging technologies, utilize best practices for data security. So AI definitely falls into this. You know, we don't know what might be in 2 years, you know, something different than AI, who knows, right? So we want to keep it broad and just know the emerging technologies and the data security, that's always a moving target. So that's why, you know, we're going to the know before that you will do every quarter. You know, not only is it for organizational and it's a board member, but for your own personal as well, to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe in this digital world. The third initiative.
I think I have a comment, or maybe a question. Do we want to incorporate the term adapt either in that third initiative or one of those bullet, or the first bullet point? Just continuing to be consistent in that, because again, I don't know if someone who's reading this, or I mean, I know it's for us, but people still, you know, if the public still can see it, will they know to go back to look at that? I just think that's a very important word. This era of digital transformation. So,
Advance, okay. Add that, yes. So it would be, let me make sure I got it right, Carmen. Adapt and implement regulatory policies. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, it could be either in your top initiative or maybe somewhere in the first bullet point. You know, I wasn't looking at it, probably looking at it more safe. You know, I was thinking more of rewording the first bullet to adapt, but you know, I'll leave that up to you all. I know there's lots of words down there.
So this is really the first introduction for you all as board members, and we just want to make sure as board staff, we're going in the direction based on the surveys, based on the meetings that we've had, that we're going that you all would like us going in as an organization. And this will cover us for the next 4 years from 26 into 29. Yes, Ms. Layton.
To kind of follow up about the data security as an aside, I want constant things about phishing and scamming, you know, that we get in our emails every day. I look at those and read those religiously. So
Yes.
thanks to them.
So yes, they're behind the glass, but thank you. Yes.
Crystal.
Yes.
Just also, I really like the layout and the use of color on the previous one as
Okay.
compared to this one.
Okay.
Especially if they can be color coded with the 3 circles that interlock.
Yes.
If each color could then coincide with one of the bullet points or something like that.
Okay. And I tell you, Brad does a fantastic job of laying it out and all. But I do see what you're saying, Tom. You've got the darker gray up there, or before we had the lighter blue. And color is always good, right? So we can certainly have Brad work on. Thank you for that suggestion. So we will not take a vote today because it needs to go back to staff. I guess Meredith will need a motion to send it back to staff to rework the things that you all suggested. And then we will get that back by email, give you time to comment, and go from there to get it approved.
So in that regard, is there a motion to direct staff to take it back for the modifications, updates, and suggestions, and then bring it back to the board. Okay, the motion has been made by Andrea Jepson. Is there a second? It has been seconded by Kelly Dahl. All in favor by show of hands, and the vote is unanimous. Thank you so much.
And Madam Chair,
Yes,
may I also thank staff for all their diligent work on this. It's
absolutely.
not been easy, so.
Yes, thank you, staff. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Tillman. That concludes yours.
Yes, it concludes my report.
All righty. Well, thank you again, Dr. Tillman, for your report. I concur with Diane in terms of thanking the staff for all the work that you do. We appreciate you so much. At this time, I need a motion and a second for our meeting to adjourn. Tom Minowitz, of course. Okay, Tom Minowitz has moved that we are meeting. Is there a second? Okay, who said that? Let's go with Daisha over there, Thompson. It has been seconded by Daisha. All in favor by show of hands. The vote is almost unanimous, but are there any abstentions? Opposition? The vote is unanimous.
So one more thing,
Oh.
to our board member, we want to say hello. She's watching online, and we just wish her a speedy recovery, and can't wait to have you back in person with us. Good luck.
Yes, blessings to you, Angela. Thank you.
Now, Arlene, you know you got a microphone.